Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 511 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology for October 28th, 2018. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, karaoke is coming to Twitch. No information seems to be coming from Apple, and some big names are not coming to the big screen. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on one of our live streaming platforms, which are livestream.com, Periscope, Mixer, Twitch, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the like, through any of the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, the myriad of other podcatchers like Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and Stitcher, or of course on our apps, PLUGHITZLive.com/apps. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Like I said, this here is F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, the flagship show on the PLUGHITZ Live family of content. We are live Sunday nights at about 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Sometimes it changes a little bit. There are two ways that you can join us. The first is, like I said, live at f5live.tv/join us. And there you can chat with us in the studio during the show. Give us your feedback on the topics as we discuss them. Avram and I always love to hear what people have to say about what we're talking about. If you cannot join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZLive.com/subscribe will take you to links to subscribe to all of our shows on any platform you can think of just about, including F5 Live, the Pilch Point, our special events feed, First Looks, and a whole lot more. With that, Avram, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Not too bad. Not too bad. Been working on my projects. I feel like I always need more. It's like it just spirals. I think I have enough stuff to complete one of my Raspberry Pi projects, but there's just one more thing that I don't have that I need, or that it turns out like I didn't have a big enough box. So I went to Micro Center around here and I got a bigger box, which is way bigger than I need. But I guess it'll work with the giant buttons I got for putting on my thing. But then I was like, I don't know if the box will be big enough, so I got a bunch more buttons. So
boy, that looks like Radio Shack packaging right there.
It is tactile button assortment.
Huh.
Does not have a name on it.
Interesting. That looks just like the last packaging that Radio Shack had before disappearing.
And now I will share the best deal in technology with our audience. This here is a Raspberry Pi ZeroW. This is a functioning computer. Granted, I don't think most of you would want to use it as your main computer. I don't blame you. Neither would I. But great for like projects. Like you could put pins in it, solder pins onto it, and use it to like control things. Fun projects. Anyway, this computer here, it has Wi-Fi. It has Bluetooth. It has a single core processor. Okay. It doesn't run Windows.
So you're not going to be rendering videos on it, is what you're saying.
But this is how big it is.
Okay.
It connects via mini HDMI. I'm sure you've seen these before, right?
Yeah.
Right, Scott?
Absolutely.
So at Micro Center, which by the way, I should say this is cheaper than Amazon. It's cheaper than the official Raspberry Pi site. It's cheaper than any place on earth that I have seen. How much do you think this costs?
I don't know. I was say I feel like you've said a ridiculously low price.
$5.
That's crazy.
$5. So every time I go there, I buy one. which because one time I went there, I don't know if this is official store policy or whatever. One time I went there and I wanted to buy two, and the guy's like, "Oh, we only sell you the first one for $5. The next one's $14." I was like, "Oh, I'll just have to come back again." So,
I'll be back in an hour.
like I need a million of these, but I keep finding like, oh, if I want to do a project, like, I have a couple of projects I'm working on right now. Folks who've been listening to this maybe know that I'm close to getting done the this thing that's going to be like a switch box that lets my coworker just switch between live webcam feeds of Scotland, his favorite place. We're calling it a virtual window to Scotland. So that's one. Another coworker of mine wanted me to create a little box. These things are way below the capability of this because, I mean, this could really do some actual real important stuff.
Sure.
But this actually happens to be cheaper than, let's say, and smaller than, let's say, buying an Arduino board, which could do a lot of the same things slightly more easily. He wants me to create some type of a box that tells him how many days his building elevator has been out. So like, this is deceptively simple. I mean, I gotta get a box. I gotta use one of these. I've gotta put pins on it, and I've got to connect it to a little LED screen that shows how many days it's been. And then so he can reset it if it's necessary. I had to put some type of interface on it, like a couple of buttons maybe, and then it has to be programmed to, like, every day at midnight advance the number of days.
Sure.
So not the most complicated project, but the hard part for me is the physical part. Like, how am I gonna mount buttons to look nice? How am I gonna get the right size box? How am I gonna, like, take these things that I got that look like these little LEDs, these little LED 7-segment LEDs, mount them, because they don't really have a good way to, like, mount them. Do you know what those are? 7-segment LEDs? Okay. For our audience, a 7-segment LED, or it could be called an 8-segment LED, is literally a digit from a digital clock. That is what it is. If you ever had a clock radio next to your bed and it has little digital numbers, those are considered to be 7 segments. Because each one of those little lines is a segment and is actually an independent light that has to be programmed. And then there's sometimes a dot between them, and that would be the 8th segment. Anyway, I digress. There's probably a lot more to talk about, but
I love hearing about the crazy projects you're working on, Avram. I love that you've gotten into projects. That it makes me so happy.
But it's something that I really enjoy, and as far as my son has patience with me, because he'll like doesn't have a lot of patience to, like, for me to sit and try stuff. So he used to do it after he goes to bed. Like last night, I was up at 2 a.m. soldering pins because I know he gets really bored when I'm doing that, and I tell him he shouldn't sit next to me or whatever while I'm doing it, while the toxic fumes are puffing up. So, which I'm not good at it, but I'm practice, Anyway, so these are $5 boards. If I solder them a little messed up, I don't feel so bad.
Right, for sure. It's a lot better than having like a $40 board and accidentally bridging contacts, and you're like, oh, if I'm not able to fix that sucks. Right.
So, like, one of them I put the pins in upside down. Not that makes it ineffective. You just to plug everything into the back.
Right.
And another one I put them in, but, like, for some reason one of the pins seemed to, like, lurch through and was actually taller than the other ones. So I think it sunk through the bottom or something.
All right.
But it's still connected, and so I cut the top of it off, and it's, like, even now, but it's not sticking out the back. Who knows? Anyway, our audience probably interested in other stuff. But anyway, if you live near a Micro Center, which there are 11 in the United States or something like that, there's not a lot. Maybe 15 of them. Although they do have a website, microcenter.com, you can order from. You can get a Raspberry Pi ZeroW for $5 and try these exciting experiments with it yourself.
Excellent. Definitely something worth experimenting with. Project boards are always fun. But anyway, let's get to some news. How's that sound?
Great.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new Surface, whether the Pro, the Go, the Book, the laptop, the Studio, all available, plus accessories, the Surface mouse and keyboard, or you're looking for a new Xbox, an Xbox One S or X, both available, games, VR, AR, mixed reality, and a whole lot more, all available by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right. I know this is something that Avram and I have talked about a lot for a number of years, and it's the fact that over the last, specifically during the time that we've been doing this show, we have watched a number of electronics go from having user replaceable and user repairable things to being entirely sealed. Smartphones, you can't change the batteries in. Most laptops, you can't change the batteries in. Simple things you can't do, let alone if something goes wrong, getting to those components is really difficult. And then on top of it, we have things like software that reports in that somebody unauthorized has made a repair to the hardware, and the hardware self-destructs until
Wait. What computer does that? That's new to me. Which one does it?
The most recent generation of MacBooks, for example.
It self-destructs, or it just doesn't, or it just doesn't void your warranty?
Nope, it requires the Apple technician software to report on the hardware that an official repair has been done before it will work again. Isn't that crazy? But there are other electronics that do things like this. Video game consoles, for a different reason, do it because obviously making alterations to an Xbox or a PlayStation may allow for cheating, and so there are processes in place to try and prevent video game consoles from having cheats added to them. But then there are other things that have software built into them that make it impossible or definitely difficult to repair yourself. Just things around the house, or farm equipment. It turns out there's tractors and stuff that if you try and repair them yourself, they have things inside of them that prevent you from using them until they're looked at by an official tech, which is crazy to me. Boats and airplanes, not like commercial airliners, but like personal boats and stuff like that might have them. And it's been a big battle, right? I mean, just the battery issue
right,
is a pain for us. And the fact that the manufacturers have kind of bought into that idea, and a number of manufacturers have started to make it more and more difficult with software to make some or all of the repairs yourself, is obnoxious. And the way they make that happen is through a clause in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which generally protects the right people, but sometimes is worded such that things go a little sideways. We know that until a couple of years ago, I could not go on Netflix and share that I was watching a particular movie because of a clause in the DMCA. Like, just, sometimes it goes a little sideways. And here's one of them. It is Section 1201, and it essentially prevents a lot of repairs, smart speakers, and, like I said, tractors, all kinds of things end up getting hit by 1201. But the good news is the Congress decided that somebody would be in charge of occasionally looking at the DMCA and coming up with a list of exceptions based on real-world implementations. And that review process happened recently, and a whole bunch of products can now legally have the software on them circumvented such that if you make an unauthorized repair, you can still use your equipment. Hooray!
So you now have the right to put a hack on to stop Apple's thing, or is Apple stopped from doing what they're doing to stop you from repairing?
So unfortunately, computers do not fall into the exceptions because Apple's thing came about way too late in the process. So they did not consider that a computer manufacturer would do something like this. So they did not add it to the list of exceptions, unfortunately. However, in the list are, let's see, it's around here somewhere. I swear I have it. I know I have it. Oh, here we go. Smartphones, home appliances, home systems, which are defined fairly broadly, but include things like boats and airplanes, like I mentioned before, and tractors and things like that. Those are all included, but unfortunately computers are not, which is sad. It also means that video game consoles are not included in the exception. So you can't circumvent software to like ban altered consoles from Xbox Live or PSN. But the idea that, for example, let's say you're running a refurbishing business for cell phones and you get a sealed iPhone in, or an Android or a flip phone, it doesn't matter what. You weren't allowed to unlock an unused phone. Yeah. Well, now you can. So now if somebody gets in a brand new unopened iPhone, they can still unlock it before selling it, which is a good thing. There's obviously lots of good things, especially for like personal repairers who like to just tinker, make changes to things. This is definitely a bonus. It does suck that, that Apple thing didn't get covered, but I understand. They just didn't expect that anybody would ever put this in place.
But let's be clear with folks. What they've exempted is your right on those platforms that they exempted it. I think was your right to try to circumvent the protection. Yes. What they did not do was, and I don't think they have the authority to do, right, unless like there are new laws passed, right, or there's a Supreme Court ruling or something.
The Library of Congress does not have the authority to
give people the right to repair.
Right.
And that's what the terminology is, right to repair. People want, I think there are maybe some state laws for this, but people want there are specific things that people actually really want when they advocate for right to repair. They don't, obviously one thing that would fall under right to repair is don't do something that disables the device when I repair it, right, when I attempt to repair it. So like Apple's thing is the most aggressive anti right to repair thing I've ever seen,
yeah, me too,
or heard of. But some of the other things that would fall under right to repair are like, hey, you have to make that some people want, are like, hey, the company has to make available parts so that I can buy them to repair, or right, hey, they have to share the schematics or something, so people, although there usually are service manuals, but not if you can't service it. So like,
right,
because I know there are issues, I think, with especially with Apple stuff, where like you can only get Apple to repair it, and then if Apple decides that your thing is not eligible to be repaired, like I've heard of circumstances where they decide something is like if you messed with it, they won't fix it. So like, and you can't take it to you're not supposed to be able to take it to a third-party repair place. Right. So basically, you got to sort of find an underground repair place who's probably buying the parts from some trashed system because they don't sell.
Right.
Nobody sells the parts, because Apple doesn't make the parts,
or some
some
unauthorized Chinese knockoff manufacturer, which isn't necessarily better than a used part from a trashed machine.
Yeah, so it's that sort of a thing. I mean, obviously, I will always come down on the side of you should be able to take stuff apart. I understand why a company would void your warranty for doing certain things.
Sure.
Like, I don't want to clean up after your mess if you mess this up. But
it's certainly not at our cost. That's the warranty void thing. I'm not taking on the responsibility to fix your mess at my cost.
Yes.
So yeah, that totally makes sense. Void the warranty. I'm good with that.
But one thing that we did look into a lot when I was at Laptop Mag is we did every year or so we would go out and we'd survey all the major laptop manufacturers and ask them what their warranty policies were. And we had the one question we would ask all of them was like, does upgrading the RAM or SSD void your or hard drive, or storage drive, void the warranty? Because on a lot of laptops, you can get to the storage and you can get to the RAM and you can replace them.
Right. Usually pretty easily. I mean, not as much today as a number of years ago.
It depends. On a MacBook, very difficultly, and obviously the answer for them is no. Although it used to be that you could. MacBook Pro used to be able to do that. But most manufacturers said, no, it won't void your warranty. Who told us that it would? Microsoft. But on the other hand, have you looked at the Surfaces? Is there any easy way to get to the guts of your Surface? I bet it's pretty hard.
If you're watching the video and not just listening to the audio of this episode, listeners and viewers, you will see that my Surface Book is totally sealed. There is absolutely no way to get to anything.
Right. I mean, I don't know how Microsoft professionally does it, but professionally services them. But it's made in such a their stuff is made in such a way that I could understand why they would say, if you manage to get this open, that you void your warranty.
Absolutely.
But another company that told me that it voids your warranty, which I'm really surprised, and I'm not sure whether there was some confusion there, although we've asked them multiple times and they've said yes, it voids your warranty every time, is Gigabyte. I find that really surprising because they make a lot of gaming notebooks that have pretty easily accessible RAM and storage. I mean, and they
know who their target demo is, right?
Right, exactly. So like all the major gaming notebook manufacturers understand that people are going to upgrade, and they even sometimes kind of pitch it at people like, look, we have an extra slot for another SSD for you. Yeah. So
the laptop that used to be the computer that powered your screen shipped with dual slots in it.
Yeah, so it's but yeah, most of them said yes, you can upgrade your RAM and your storage, but if you break something while you're doing it, then you're out of luck. But if you do it and then something else in the computer breaks later, and we figure out that you replaced the RAM and storage, then we're, I mean, they're not going to void your warranty, but they, So
unless you try and do it while it's on, and the problem that they find is that there is an electrical short in the system, or
now
there are almost certainly exceptions.
I will tell you that if I did that and I upgraded my RAM and my computer broke later, I would keep the original RAM and then put it back in before I shipped it in for service.
I sent that laptop that I was mentioning in for service on 2 separate occasions, and that second hard drive came out both times.
Yeah, exactly. Why risk it? Why have them see it?
Absolutely. Well,
And
at least this is a step in the right direction. The Library of Congress has done what they can. This isn't the first time that they've added to the exceptions. In their last review, which would have been 3 years ago, we got the ability to unlock used phones, which was a big deal, and to cross tech them if the hardware had radios for both CDMA and GSM, you could cross tech them, which was a pretty big deal, especially since Apple produces all of their phones cross tech. So, you know, you could buy one from Verizon on CDMA and take it to T-Mobile on GSM, which was, so that was the last batch. This one, I think, is less broad, but certainly more important to a lot of people. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer or upgrading an existing one, assuming maybe you have a laptop that has the ability to upgrade the RAM or hard drive, or you've got a PC that you need a new video card, all of that is available from Newegg, and a wide variety. And the thing that I find most interesting is their daily deals. They've been doing some really interesting stuff. Right now, they've got a really powerful gaming PC that's normally $22.49 on a daily deal for $16.49, which, you know, that's a huge savings. But it changes every day. Monitors, PCs, and sometimes you'll find weird stuff like a bread maker, and I'm not making that up. That's on there right now. All of that is available by going to pilchpoint.live/Newegg. I love that there's a bread maker on here. Anyway, Avram, you're making some noise. Some noise usually means that you've got something to show us.
yes, so I present to you an intriguing device. Intriguing are the words I will use. Is the word I will use. This, which the color is not quite coming through how nice it looks on the camera, but this is the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 2-in-1. It comes with the keyboard, which is just like the Surface detachable keyboard.
Okay.
It comes with a stylus. Although I must say, no, this is not the stylus it comes with. Sorry. It comes with a stylus that is about that size, but is completely plastic, not metal. This is actually like the good Surface Pen. And it's $999, and it's coming out November 2nd. Now, those are the most basic facts. What makes this 2-in-1 stand out is it is the first tablet to hit the market, or the first 2-in-1, the first device to hit the market, at least as far as we know, and in the U.S., with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 850 processor. But it is running Windows, so it is Windows on ARM. Now, folks may remember back in not that long ago in the spring, the first Windows on ARM laptops came out, and they were powered by another Qualcomm chip, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835. This is the 850, so it's supposed to be faster and fix and deal with some of the problems that the 835 had. So what were the problems, and did it fix them? Well, the promise of these Snapdragon computers, which Qualcomm calls always connected PCs, and they say always connected because they have built-in 4G, and they wake from sleep pretty fast. And so the idea, and they also have Microsoft's connected standby, although so do several Windows laptops. So several Intel-powered Windows laptops. and they're powered by Qualcomm. Now, it's great that Qualcomm is getting into the PC business because that brings a new level of competition to the duopoly of Intel and AMD. Although as a duopoly, Intel actually has a much larger share, but AMD still makes their fair number of x86 chips. So the fact that Windows now runs on these processors is great, but there's a limitation. Because these processors were made are ARM and not x86, which is the type of processor that Intel and AMD's are, they have to run an emulation mode to run regular Windows 32 apps. And what's a regular Windows 32 app, for those who don't know? It's any program that you don't download from the Windows Store. If you downloaded it from somebody's website and you clicked an installer and it installed, then that is a Win32 app, and that has to be run through emulation. So there are a lot of issues with the performance of those apps. So for example, Chrome browser, the most popular browser in the world, is not in the Windows Store. So it has to be run in emulation. And guess what? It's sluggish. So when I run now, it was much worse on the 35, but I'll tell you, running with about a little over a dozen tabs open and a YouTube video playing, there was a lot of lag. And like the video could be okay, but then if I click to change tabs, that it would take like 2 or 3 seconds for the tab to redraw. Now, and then a couple of times switching back and forth too quickly between things, the system would like freeze for a few seconds. So, that can happen on any computer that's overwhelmed, but this was overwhelmed. On Edge, on the Edge browser, which is, designed to work with these processors, it was a little bit better. It didn't really freeze, but redrawing was still a little slow. And then keep in mind that this $1,000 laptop has 4 gigs of RAM and a 128 gigabyte storage drive. So not exactly high-end specs to go with this processor that already is having trouble because a lot of things run through emulation.
Right.
And then there's some things that you just can't run at all because they're not available. This cannot run 64-bit apps. So Photoshop, any kind of Photoshop or Photoshop elements, is 64-bit. There is in the Windows Store I think it's Photoshop Express, which is a free sort of really neutered editor. So you could run that, but you can't run like the paid stuff. I need to use for work an app, a VPN client called OpenVPN. Mm-hmm. OpenVPN cannot run on this. OpenVPN has a 32-bit version, but it installs its own little driver, and most drivers for software drivers like that not compatible with the Qualcomm processor, so it just won't install. So while the Windows Store has gotten better and there's a lot more stuff you can download from it, there's still a lot of limitations with this. Now, so you've got this meh performance at best with like apps that work well on it. But you do have some wonderful things about the hardware. This screen is an OLED screen, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is 200%. It covers 200% of the sRGB gamut. This keyboard here that comes with it, unlike the Surface Pro where you have to pay $129 extra, is actually really good. Like it's pretty snappy.
Nice.
And it comes with a stylus. And the cameras, I don't know how many people are taking photos with their tablet. Cameras are pretty good too. The 8-megapixel rear camera took really nice pictures. The 5-megapixel front camera was better than pretty much any webcam I've used built in on anything. Nice. So it gets a lot of, the sound is pretty good. It gets a lot of things right. The battery life is okay, but not the level that you would expect from one of these Qualcomm chips that, they promised, over 20 hours of battery life. And this got, well, I don't know if they said over 20 for this, but various times they promised a ridiculous amount of battery life from these Qualcomm processors. This lasted 10 hours on our battery test. So the problem here is this cannot possibly be, they're not marketing it as a secondary device. So if someone from Samsung were here or Qualcomm or Microsoft, they would probably say, no, this is, someone could use this as their only computer. I disagree. I think the only way that you could buy this device is if it's not your only computer and you have a good computer waiting for you at home. If you've got a desktop waiting for you at home and you need something to take with you on the train every day, to do some writing and review some web pages or whatever, this could fill that job. But would you fill that job for $1,000?
Right. Would
you spend $1,000 on a secondary device? If you say, well, wait a second, not everybody cares about performance as much as you, Avram. You're editor for Tom's Hardware. Of course you care. What about my mom? Listen, I couldn't disagree with that more. People who are not the most tech savvy or not the most, into performance per se, have the least amount of patience for things that don't work.
Yes.
That's where people get it wrong every time. Listen, my mom is not going to use Handbrake to transcode, and now I should take say what I'm talking about. I talk about my mom because it used to be when I was growing up, and people always say, well, will that work for my mom? Now we've got generations of people who are very computer literate, who are people's mothers. So when I say my mom, I mean someone who did not grow who is in their 70s or 80s and did not grow up with computers and is a bit and can use them, but is not technically astute even after using them for a number of years.
Sure.
So when I talk about that, like my mom would not need fantastic performance. She would not be playing, high-end game, Witcher on here. She would not be transcoding a video on here. But you know what she would be doing? She would be surfing the web and she would be writing documents. Mm-hmm. And when she was clicking on things and something didn't happen for 5 seconds, she would think something was really broken. She wouldn't say, oh, this is an ARM processor, so I guess I have to live with some lag.
Right.
People who don't know as much about technology have less tolerance for poor performance because they don't expect it and they don't know why it's happening, so they can't excuse it. Right. That's why I can, getting back to the earlier part of our show, have a $5 computer here, and I know that it's not going to run stuff super well when I'm browsing the web on it because it's a $5 computer.
Right.
But if I gave this to my mother, she would not take it with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. She would, if she clicks an icon and something does not start loading immediately, she would start clicking it again because she thinks that it's not working, right? Because she expects things to work. So
you just described my mom. That was so funny.
But I don't blame them. Like, you should expect things to work. So we should never, I just want to break that paradigm that people have, that people who are not as tech savvy or not as tech enthusiastic as, say, someone like me, don't care about performance. They don't care about doing things that require necessarily pushing your computer to its limit.
Right.
They're not going to overclock.
They're not. But they care. They're not doing things. They're not doing things like, my machine in the office has been running its 8 cores at 100% capacity for the last 2 hours rendering video, but they're not doing stuff like that. But they do expect. They see other people double click a thing and a thing happens, and when it doesn't do that for them, they don't understand. They think that they've missed something or that. Yeah.
So, I mean, So I have to tell you, I took this $999 computer and I put it side by side with its number one competitor, the Surface Pro 6, which actually does not cost that much more than this and could cost about the same depending on what you configure it with. So the Surface Pro 6 with a Core i5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM and on 128 SSD, which is a real SSD. This uses I think it's called EUFS, that EUFS file system, which is not EUFS storage, the same kind that's in smartphones, so not quite as fast as a real SSD. So you can get that Surface for $900. Now, $900 comes without the keyboard. So figure another $129 for the keyboard. Now you're up to $1,029. And if you want the pen, which you could live without, but let's say you want the pen because you get it with this for free, that will be $1,120. You'll be spending $129 more to get a Surface with the same keyboard and pen, and yet you'd be getting 8 gigs of RAM. You'd be getting much, much, much better performance. Now you wouldn't get the built-in 4G, which is nice, is very nice to have, but I think most people would rather tether it to their phone and get and have web pages load quickly because the web browser is not being overwhelmed by the processor can't handle the load, or it's out of RAM because you've got 10 tabs open. So, I think I think this is, I would not recommend somebody buy this. If it were, let's say, somebody gave it to you for free, or it was on sale for $500-$600, you might make a case that, like, wow, the screen is really nice. I could use this as a secondary device. That's where the Surface Go fits in, which is starts at $400 and is 10 inches. And frankly, that should probably not be anyone's main computer either. It's not very powerful. It at least can run everything because it uses an Intel processor, but it's 10 inches, which is not adult sized for regular everyday use.
Yeah.
And it's and it's got a low power processor. So, there's a market of these devices that are secondary devices. But my question to the manufacturers and to our listeners is, like, who's it for? How much would you pay for a second computer when you because you would not be happy if you bought these as your main computer. And for less money, you could get something better. Like, if you don't want a 2-in-1 and you, like, if $999 is all you have to spend and you can't spend the extra $1,100 to get a Surface Pro, you could buy like a Dell XPS 13. You could buy a Benback 2-in-1 or something that is much more powerful than this. So, I cannot foresee a situation where somebody would use this as their primary computer. And so, who wants it as their secondary computer? And if you want it as your secondary, to spend $1,000 on your secondary computer, then you must have enough money to spend another $100 and get the Surface Pro. So, like, I don't quite get it, but it seems like there's a trend now of things that are sort of secondary devices that are expensive. This same week, we saw Lenovo's new Yoga Book, which does not have a real keyboard. It has an e-ink keyboard that is completely flat and has no tactile feedback whatsoever. And it's made for note taking because it's made for note taking, and it starts at $1,000. Well, again, note taking is great, but that's not going to be your only computer probably. So, are you going to spend $1,000 on a note taking computer?
Right.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it seems like a device that exists for technology's sake and not necessarily for any particular consumer. It definitely seems bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've asked around and people are like, oh, what about it? Corporate executives. If you're a corporate executive, you're not getting, like, first of all, your company's probably going to push you to get whatever the business gets, and businesses buy by Dell, Lenovo, HP, or maybe sometimes Apple. So, this is not going to be what they're not going to equip the office with Samsungs and then give the executive the high end one, like they do with, let's say, Dell's, where maybe executive might get like the XPS 13 while the proletariat gets like the Latitude, the clunky 15-inch Latitude that nobody wants, or or the Lenovo, where maybe the executive gets like the X1 Yoga, and the line workers get like a T480 or something. But like so. And also, if you're an executive, I guess that means that you're getting the most expensive stuff just because the company's paying for it. So you're going to get something fancier than this. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll get a Surface Book. Right. Like you're going to get something that runs. You're certainly not going to want to compromise on performance. Yeah. Even if you're an executive that doesn't know what you're doing, you're going to be calling. If I was IT department, I wouldn't let you, because you're going to be calling me saying, hey, I tried to install this program and it didn't work. Uh-huh. Or, hey, the company's VPN doesn't work on this thing because it only runs 32-bit apps. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't see who it's for. Yeah, for sure. Obviously you have one. So that means that we're probably going to be either going to be or have already heard something official on it from you. Yes, our review went up on Friday. Excellent. I should say that. Yes, my review is on tomshardware.com, and despite the fact that I told you I don't recommend it, there's still some interesting things to read about it. Sure. And the technology behind it. So I do encourage people to check out my review on tomshardware.com of the Samsung Galaxy Book 2. Fantastic. Well, always appreciate info on devices like this, especially bizarro world devices, where interestingly, I'm doing a review right now on a product that I don't understand why it exists. So I totally get it. You're like, I don't get it, but definitely. I get why Qualcomm wants to make PCs. Uh-huh. I get why people are interested. I am interested in seeing Qualcomm make a successful PC that runs all my apps. Absolutely. But if you're coming into the market with something that is kind of has some issues because it can't run everything, don't make it more expensive than stuff that has no issues. Mm-hmm. Come into the market with a humble price point, because you know that people are having to take a risk on your technology and and are going to have to live with drawbacks. That's like the Chromebooks. Now they have high-end Chromebooks, which I also don't understand. But at least when the technology was getting started, and for most people who buy Chromebooks, it's $200, $300, $400 tops. Yeah. It's cheap because they know, hey, this doesn't do everything that a full-fledged PC does. Therefore, we won't ask people to pay as much for it. Right. Now, granted, they use some fancy components, but that's like putting a golden chassis on a Yugo engine. Like, it's still not performing. So, like, I don't care if you tell me, oh, I have to charge you $1,000 because it costs so much money to put the OLED screen in it, and it costs so much money to make it in this form factor, and you don't understand this. We're not, making a big margin off of this. Good for you, but this is business, not charity. Consumers don't grade on a curve. They don't come and say, oh, it cost you $800, so I guess I should just pay you $1,000 for it. Like, it doesn't matter how much it costs you. It matters to make it. It matters what the value is to me, and the value of a secondary device is for most people not $1,000. Yeah, for sure. Well, love the perspective. Having been down the ARM road, not quite the same way, but I can definitely, I can commiserate. Thank you for bringing this thing, and definitely people go check out the full review.
This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. Oh, you may or may not be able to hear me right now. It's okay. All the accessories that you need to up your game, whether it be on PC or console, are all available from Razer. Whether you're looking for a gaming keyboard or a great mouse, like the one I use here in the studio, or you need a webcam that has built-in chroma key capabilities, or you want a full laptop that's designed specifically for gaming, you can get all of it by going to f5live.tv/Razer. What I would like is for my internet to stay up. Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about. Instead, we're going to talk about an interesting partnership that was announced at TwitchCon this week, which is a partnership between Twitch, which obviously we know is the leader in video game streaming and definitely the most active of the video game communities, and Harmonix, definitely the name today in rhythm games. If you've been watching the show for a while, you might remember that my top recommendation for holiday gifts last year was Drop Mix. That came from Harmonix. This relationship is an interesting one. They're working on a game called Twitch Sings, which is a Twitch-powered karaoke game. I suppose if karaoke was going to work online, it would definitely be a combination of Twitch and Harmonix that would make it work. We all remember Rock Band, which is where Harmonix made their name, had a vocal. One of the quote-unquote instruments was vocal, and that worked pretty well, especially when you go back as far as Rock Band. And if you're going to get people involved, it seems like Twitch is the place to do it. I just don't know. I don't know.
Wait, so here's my question to you. Why does Twitch need to be officially involved in this effort? Can't you already stream karaoke games?
Sure. You could do karaoke yourself on it.
Can't you stream any game you want on Twitch? So why couldn't you just stream Rock Band or another like SingStar? I don't know what people are playing these days. I mean,
SingStar, wow.
We used to play that on the PS2. I think it was SingStar. But what's the special sauce in this that makes it better than just streaming a regular whatever other karaoke games are out there?
Sure. Great question. First, yes, you can stream anything on Twitch, including our show. So, yes, you can literally stream anything. It doesn't matter, whatever. Whoop. So, yes, you could grab another karaoke game and go. Where this game comes in, according to Twitch and Harmonix, is that it's designed specifically to leverage Twitch. Like, for example, say you're a popular streamer. It's probably not the case. Let's say you become popular for this game. I can't imagine the guys that are doing Super Mario Brothers speed runs are going to be singing karaoke. So let's say you get popular for doing this game, and you have people watching. Well, you can invite the people watching into the game with you to do duets and things like that directly from your Twitch channel, which means that you don't have to add them on, PlayStation or Xbox or something like that. You can keep your gaming environment separate and still involve your community in the thing. Essentially, what this is Twitch trying out the things that make Mixer special. That's what I see. I see this as Twitch's first attempt to really get into the secret sauce that makes Mixer interesting, which is the ability.
Can you do a duet?
Yes, absolutely you can, and it requires no connection outside of Twitch, which I think is an important aspect of it.
That's interesting, because then you have people singing with each other. So that's something I don't think that's pretty cool.
Singing with each other remotely, which is I think even more interesting. And I imagine since it's Twitch, you'll be able to like split stream, the people involved. So that I think is really interesting, and that's really, the thing that has always made Mixer, even before Microsoft got involved, the thing that made Beam interesting was the ability for developers to build the community into their games. There are games where literally you can ask the community to make a decision for you, or to impose a restriction on your game that you then have to live with. And so this is Twitch literally saying, we want to involve the community in the way this game is played, which is really the secret sauce of Mixer. So I think they've finally realized that Mixer has an interesting concept and want to give it a shot. And, a rhythm game, karaoke, you don't have to be good at it. The joke is that karaoke is Japanese for tone deaf. So you don't even have to be good at it for the experience to be fun, especially for somebody watching.
The better if you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I could see this becoming like, I bet you it's already somewhere like American Idol, where people are getting voted up and down.
I can't wait. Obviously being the founder of DDR Lover, I have a particular place in my heart for rhythm games, which is one of the reasons I was so excited with Drop Mix last year. The idea of a new genre of music game was fascinating to me. And so the idea of a new take on a very old concept is interesting too. I can't wait to see it in action. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little sad that it's Twitch and not Mixer, only because I find the community over on Mixer more interesting. But I definitely want to see this thing in action, and I wish I could see it yesterday. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to hear me singing, but but I will. I do look forward to seeing this thing in action. We don't know when, where, or how we will see it in action, but it was on display at TwitchCon, so hopefully that means that it's far enough along that we'll see it soon. But who knows? We literally don't know. There is a private beta that will be starting. I don't have a date. It will be starting soon, I think is what they said, quote unquote soon. Anybody can sign up, but they're going to choose a very small number of streamers to participate. If you want to sign up, the link is over at PLUGHITZlive.com.
Cool.
This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let the professionals do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities, such as Terror in the Wax Museum. I apologize, I couldn't even say that name with a straight face. That one sounds terrible, which makes it wonderful. The way it usually works is for a couple of bucks, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to live. That one, I have no idea where it might live. And laugh. From time to time, they do some live events. Hopefully, we will see some coming up in the new year. But they also have short films, industry films like The Wonders of Springs, or those educational films that your teachers used to show you in elementary school. They make fun of them all. And to find out what short films and what full-length features are available, you can go to f5live.tv/worktracks with an X. Terror in the Wax Museum. I don't even know what to do with that.
Experience it.
Yeah, it's definitely my plan. That is almost certainly going to be my my Halloween movie for the year, because that sounds terrible. Anyway, obviously we know that the cloud is the thing, right? It's almost impossible to survive today without some sort of web-powered service. And we also know that when one of these services goes down, the internet makes noise. We remember not long ago, I believe it was last week, YouTube went down for about an hour. And if you watched Twitter, you would believe that we were all waiting for a nuke to drop because of the doom and despair that the internet felt from about an hour of YouTube outage. So
oh no.
So normally we know immediately when something goes down, especially something quote unquote essential like YouTube. Well, this week, something else that technologically is probably far more essential went down, and that was iCloud. If you're surprised to be hearing that information right now, you are not alone, because nobody talked about it. It was down for 12 hours, and in there was mail, calendar, and even sign-in. So if you were a developer trying to get to the developer portal to update your app, nope. If you were trying to sign in to a phone, or God forbid you were trying to configure one of your brand new devices, nope, couldn't do it. And yet nobody talked about it, including Apple. On their status page, they mentioned, there was a comment that some users might be experiencing slower connection times. But the service was fully inaccessible for 12 hours. And Apple has said nothing about it. That is weird.
Here's the interesting question. How do we know for a fact that it was completely inaccessible? Did somebody do like global tests to make sure that it didn't work in every country in the world and in every part of it? Or is it just that lots and lots of people reported it not working?
So a number of security firms tested against I think 52 data centers across the globe. Yeah, you just have to know that the data center is inaccessible.
Right. So they know exactly which 52 data centers Apple uses?
Yes. Because of like developer contracts and stuff, the information about the iCloud, the Apple Cloud services are known. Yeah. It's just like I know where all 56, I think, of the Azure servers are. There's a map of them.
That's good. That's good to know. I'm admitting my ignorance here, not knowing that you could actually find out where companies have their data center, all of their data centers.
You can't necessarily get an address, but you can certainly get a service ring of where the servers are. And like I know obviously I live more on the Azure side of things than AWS or iCloud or Google Cloud, but I know that like there's a whole list of all of their names and what city they're in. East 2 is in DC and East 1 is in I think Atlanta or something like that, and there's Northeast, which I think is outside of New York City, and there's a whole list of where all the data centers are. So you just ping against them, and when you get a dead ping for 12 hours, that is an inaccessible data center. And you'd try to sign in and it wouldn't work. I noticed it because I was working on a publish that day, and I noticed that our security keys weren't building correctly. And so I went looking, and it's like, oh, you might experience slow times. No, that's not what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing nothing working at all. I just find it interesting that there's been nothing about it from Apple. Normally, when a company is this tight-lipped, it indicates something bigger that they're trying to figure out. And in this case, it could have been some sort of a coordinated attack that they turned their servers off to prevent. That, I mean, Microsoft and Amazon have both had that problem where they've had to shut down at least part of the system because of a coordinated outside attack.
I think the obvious answer to this is no company wants to publicize the fact that they've had an outage or that they've had a security breach. Having an outage, however, is something they can probably get away with not publicizing as much as the security breach.
Sure.
Because if people's data has been exposed, then they kind of have a duty and can be sued or whatever to tell them that, hey, your data might have been stolen. But an outage is very easy to downplay or conceal because of doing just what they did. Instead of being straightforward and saying, yes, all of our stuff was down for 12 hours, they could just say, oh, some users may have experienced slowness. Well, some users. So unless I've seen this report that you've seen, about all the data centers or read a headline that's talked about that, if it doesn't blow up in the news and people aren't paying attention to the news, like,
you just assume that you were one of the some people.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it was me.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my connection.
Yeah. Maybe it was my connection. Maybe my service provider had trouble. There's so many vagaries when something doesn't work on the internet. Right.
To say that. So you do need. That's why I asked the question about how do you know, because you do need to do that type of scientific pinging of data centers to know that things are really down and that it's not some other link in the very long chain between you and that and that service.
Right. Because for those who don't know, the way the internet works is not peer-to-peer. Even when you're doing peer-to-peer, it's not peer-to-peer. Because, when I send Avram an email, it goes from my device to my email server and then relays across however many email servers it takes and then eventually lands on Avram's server and then gets pushed to his phone. There can be dozens of hops from the time it leaves my device till it ends up at his. So, where's the problem? Well, was my phone on Wi-Fi? Maybe it was Spectrum. Is it on... Or was it on cellular? Maybe it's my carrier. It could be Gmail's down. It could be,
It could be one of the hops that we don't deal with directly. Somewhere in between.
Exactly. There are so many possible points of failure with the internet, which is one of the reasons why I know Avram always got mad at BlackBerry Messenger, or BlackBerry in general, which added a whole extra layer of failure on top of the already complicated network.
Trust us and only us to manage all your email.
Yeah, everything that matters has to go through us. So if we go down, there's no way around it. So you just assume, something in the middle's down. It'll come back later.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting that even Apple, nobody was talking about it, because it was photos and Drive and Mail and Calendar and Find My Phone.
So I have a question for you, because I don't know if there's an answer to this.
Okay.
And maybe you don't know the answer either, but
Sure.
I bet our listeners would love to know. I would love to know. is there any way of getting some type of a public statistical record of how often different cloud services have been down, of reliability?
Wow. I don't know.
I mean, I guess the question is who's studying it? Because I don't think that they're publicly disclosing this stuff.
Right. Which is why you usually get these reports from security firms.
Right. They don't want you to. They don't want you to know. So
Right.
and this was a global outage, but something else might not rise to that level. Maybe only people who lived in this part of the United States
Absolutely.
couldn't get it for. So
when AWS went down after the hurricane a couple of years ago, and Netflix didn't work, but only in parts of the country.
right. So I don't know. It would be really interesting for, I think, businesses to know, and consumers to know, and everybody to know, like, who's over a period of time, a year or multiple years, like whose service experienced the most outages and the least outages.
Boy, that would be fascinating information to put together. I want to know if that's out there too. If anybody knows any sources on that, please let us know. Lots of ways to contact us, find us on social media. Let us know if you know there are sources. I know that there's a tracker for PlayStation Network and Xbox Live. There's got to be more than that, though. And it would be really interesting to put all that information together. So let us know if you know of sources like that, because Avram and I think, have an idea. This week's DRM Not Included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You know you get free shipping, sometimes same day, sometimes 2 hour, depending on where you are. But there are a lot of other benefits for those of you who already have Prime. You get Amazon Prime Music, which is several million tracks available to stream for free. You also get Amazon Prime Video, which gives you all kinds of content. Movies, TV shows, documentaries, and original content as well, plus the ability to add external channels like Showtime and HBO, all as part of your subscription. And then you also get Twitch Prime, which is my favorite right now. You get one free Prime subscription on Twitch, which you can use to subscribe to our show or any other channel. And you get free games. Just like an Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, every month you get free games available for as long as you're a member. And the games have been great. Psychonauts was on a while ago, which I am still playing back through because it's one of my all-time favorite games. But we've put together a list of some of our favorite features by going to f5live.tv/prime. And if you're not already a subscriber, we also have a link on there to give you a free 30-day trial right now. And again, that is f5live.tv/prime. So this week wasn't a great one for fans of the big Disney franchises. Real quick, I would like to thank, I can't read it from here because the back color on the monitor is turned down a lot, but whoever just started following us on Mixer, thank you. Not a great week for the big franchises at Disney. Both Star Wars and Marvel saw problems with a film officially announced this week. We'll start with Star Wars. We know that Star Wars has had its share of trouble since Disney took over, whether it be way too many films coming out and just there's Star Wars fatigue, or the writing has gone sideways, or Avram is shaking his head furiously. Go ahead.
No, you finish. I'm just.
Whatever it is, it's been a challenge for them, and the last film, Solo, certainly was not the box office success that they were hoping for, and we know that they have reevaluated what they're working on. And this week we found out that the as yet untitled Boba Fett film is dead. And they're going to put all of their focus into the Mandalorian. Mandalorian, which is one of their 2 animated series that they're working on right now.
Wait a sec. I thought that's going to be live action, isn't it?
Oh, I thought that was one of the... It might be. I might get the wrong one. I thought that was...
I'm pretty sure that one is live action.
That's the streaming one from Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. You're right. I apologize. Star Wars isn't my thing.
Well, Star Wars is my thing.
I know.
So.
Which is why I was trying to divert
think
to
of it,
you.
I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. Wars shirt, in fact, and it wasn't on. I didn't know we were going to talk about this with the shirt on. But anyway, man, have some faith. Have some faith in yourselves. Well, listen, I actually don't think that it's surprising at all that they would cancel the Boba Fett movie that was never really official anyway, because they're coming out with a TV show about a similar topic. Mandalorians is what Boba Fett is a Mandalorian bounty hunter. So it seems like maybe they would think that that's a little bit too much to have one about him, and then the show, which maybe the show will have him in it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Could be.
Maybe not. But it'll certainly have people who have a similar armor. And let's not forget that they had Mandalorians in the Rebels cartoon. So maybe they're Mandalorian out or something. But
could be.
I think they were really too quick to say that they're pulling the plug on these anthology movies. First of all, they've had one movie that was, I guess it didn't make back all the money that it was going to, but Solo did fairly. I mean, it's not like nobody went to see it.
Right.
I went to see it. It's not like it was a bad movie. It was fine. It was good. I mean, bad movie. Try watching The Phantom Menace again.
I was gonna say.
Try watching a roll of Jar Jar. Highlights of Jar Jar. Like,
Lucas still doesn't understand why nobody likes that character.
I'm sorry. I mean, I love George Lucas, but we're gonna have to disagree. All the Disney made Star Wars movies, I know there'll be purists who disagree. That's fine. We'll agree to disagree. I think they've all been good. I think, I think The Last Jedi was, had some moments in it that it's not that I didn't like the characters. I liked the characters. I felt like they were like a little bit, I feel like the director was a little bit playing with you in a not nice way when he kept hinting that, like, you're going to find out whose Rey's parents are, the whole thing. And, listen, turn off now. Let's just say.
Spoiler.
He toys with you over a big reveal that is not. And that's not cool. Like, if you don't think that it's important information, don't toy with the audience. That's like, that's kind of crummy, to like play up your expectation for something, and it's like, and the end. Yeah, you were waiting. I was teasing you the whole movie. I'm going to tell you this. Nah, you shouldn't have cared this whole time. Why did you care? Why'd you care? So okay, that bothered me. But Solo was a good movie. I mean, it could have been better. It had some weak points, but like, it was a perfectly fine Star Wars movie. Is there fatigue? I think there was a lot in the press said about it. There being fatigue of it. I mean, they certainly didn't do a great job of hyping it up because of, I guess, all the drama behind the scenes.
Okay.
With them changing directors. I think they have some issues behind the scenes with them changing directors, and I'd be kind of curious to see what the differences were and why they feel like they have to keep, like, they have this level of drama. But like, Rogue One was a brilliant movie. It was a great movie. I mean, why not? Why I don't think that people are sick of Star Wars. I really don't. I mean, now they're giving it a little bit of a break. I mean, maybe they should have spaced Solo out so it was released in like the fall, the holiday time frame of this year rather than 6 months after the last one, and then a year and a half between them, and maybe that would have been smarter. But like, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, but it's not like that movie was an abject failure, and
Right.
like they couldn't make another one that a lot of people would see. So I don't know. I'm not, I hope that they're not taking the wrong lesson from the negative publicity around Solo and the
For sure.
mediocre but not like horrible. Didn't it do like $400 or $500 million? I mean, it's not like nobody would see it.
Yeah, it wasn't a commercial failure. It just wasn't the success that they were looking for. But like you said, this may have everything to do with the fact that they're already producing a series for streaming with Jon Favreau, who obviously most recently has been in charge of, at the helm of the Iron Man films. And speaking of, Marvel also had a bit of a hit this week with... I have no idea what just happened, but my phone next to me started talking, even though it's off. That's always bizarre. Anyway, there's been some controversy surrounding Guardians of the Galaxy, in particular the fact that the guy at the helm, James Gunn, was fired for some tweets from like 7 years ago, 2011, I think. And
before he was hired for the first one.
Yes. Definitely long before he came on for the first one. In fact, before Disney even had Marvel, I think. But anyway, so he was fired, and all of the cast has said, we're not interested in working with Disney if James Gunn is not involved. And so essentially all of the cast have gone on strike. And so Disney this week has officially said that Volume 3 is, quote, on hold, which is, if you're not aware, is similar to saying on a TV show that the series has gone on forced hiatus, which is Hollywood speak for we're trying to figure out how to buy them out of, how to get out of their contract without having to pay them.
I don't think that Disney has an obligation. I don't know the details of their contracts, and I don't think anybody does. But I don't think that Disney has an obligation to continue making movies with someone or pay them. I don't think.
If they're guaranteed a certain number of films, which I know all of the Marvel ones, the contracts were for a certain number of films. Some difficulty comes in. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, because here's the thing. James Gunn ain't coming back, guys. He is already helming the next Suicide Squad for DC. James Gunn's not coming back to Marvel.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
so
yeah,
there's no telling what's going to happen there.
I mean, I liked the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I liked having them in Infinity War. That sounds like they have a problem with that because of circumstances behind that cast in that film.
Yeah.
But I don't think Disney's in any. I don't think Marvel is in any trouble.
Nope. Definitely not. Especially when you take into consideration that post Infinity War Part 2, a lot of the actors' contracts are up, and by a lot I mean most. This is going to be the era of shakeup. Because we're going to see Cap change, we're going to see Iron Man change, we're going to see there's a lot of actors whose contracts are up and are not coming back. And Chris Pratt's contract is up after Volume 3 anyway. So maybe they'll just take advantage of the Infinity Stone and do something different with Guardians, because the Guardians that we're seeing now are actually the second Guardians, and we were introduced to the original Guardians in Volume 2.
You know more about this than Star Wars.
So
anyway,
they could take advantage.
Stallone.
They could take advantage of the original cast, the original characters, maybe, or create a movie only third gen, or who knows. There are a lot of places they could go with it.
The only thing I don't see,
but yes, I know a lot more about this than Star Wars.
I know what you said before about Star Wars fatigue. I've been hearing for a couple of years now. When is there going to be superhero fatigue? Why does there have to be? Why? It's not a fidget spinner. It's not a fidget spinner.
And it's it's not like the idea of superheroes is so narrow, right?
People have been reading superhero stuff for thousands of years.
Right. Exactly.
Not even for like 80, 90, 100 years. I mean, for thousands of years, because if you look at things like Greek mythology,
that's what I was just thinking.
Those are in fact superhero stories for their day. So
hence Thor being a Marvel character.
So why? So it's the emergence of like really good quality superhero movies has been like the best thing to happen
to the genre. Because to Earth in the last like 10 years. In the grand scheme of things, high quality superhero films take up a statistically insignificant amount of time versus the existence of superhero stories.
Right. I mean, what about all the people who are reading all the like comics over and over again? Like,
absolutely.
People have so much fatigue that they can't watch like 2 or 3 movies a year.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see fatigue there. So, I mean,
I think the worst thing that Marvel could do here is slow down or reboot.
Yeah.
That I think would be a real slap to the fans. Would be like, oh, this has gotten too complicated. We want to have another Iron Man because Robert Downey Jr. is going away or whatever. So, let's reboot the whole universe and start over again.
Yeah, I think they'll continue down the way the comics do and just keep going. Somebody else, maybe Rhodey takes over, or, and with Captain America, it's
been 3 or 4 Captain Americas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy enough for somebody else to go in there, because there's no way that Stark successfully tested the serum only once.
Well, no, but that's not even it, because that's not even it with the super soldier serum, because you have people just don't have it. So like in the comics, I'm spoiling comics for people, but come on. In the comics for a while, I mean really old comics I should say, Bucky took over for a while as Cap, and I think currently, although I haven't caught up to the current, but I think Falcon took over as Cap. So like,
I actually think it's the reason why Bucky's been around more. I have a feeling that actor is going to take over, which is fine. He
actually has more film. I think he was signed for like 9 movies or something. Sebastian Stan. So I don't know, or they could just not focus on those characters for a while, since there's so many other great characters that haven't had a lot of attention yet.
Sure.
So
we're going to see our 4th Hulk, but that's a different problem. His contract's up too. Anyway, that is our show. For those of you who joined us live, thank you very much. For those of you who are in the chat room and those of you who started following us on certain platforms, we definitely appreciate that. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and you can see all of our shows there and subscribe on various platforms. If you are an Apple user and you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate the show on there. We love to get that feedback, and obviously ratings help new people find the show as well. So if you'd be willing to do that, we'd appreciate it. I guess Halloween's in a couple of days, so I know we have a lot of cosplay type people who enjoy the show. Definitely enjoy what is, I guess, amateur cosplay night. It's true. Don't give me that face. Everybody gets to cosplay on Halloween, and nobody looks at you crazy. It's great.
That's true, but
It's
I wouldn't
great.
say everybody's going out there as an amateur.
True. But like St. Patrick's Day is amateur drinking night. Anyway, because it's funny to say. Anyway, so enjoy the holiday, and we will be. Oh my goodness, I guess it's 2 weeks. We will be at Anime EY. Speaking of cosplay, looking forward to that for the next 3000 Brigade show. But I think next week is business as usual. So on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next week. Ciao.
Ciao.